This is Land of Havilah, Matthew 10b. Jesus is speaking about severe and violent persecution and how his disciples should react to it. Verse 26. Therefore don't be afraid of them, for there is nothing covered that will not be revealed, and hidden that will not be known. What I tell you in the darkness, speak in the light, and what you hear whispered in the ear, proclaim on the housetops. Don't be afraid of those who kill the body, but are not able to kill the soul. Rather fear him who is able to destroy both soul and body in Gehenna. Aren't 2 sparrows sold for an Assyrian coin? Not one of them falls on the ground apart from your Father's will. But the very hairs of your head are numbered. Therefore don't be afraid. You are of more value than many sparrows. Everyone therefore who confesses me before men, him I will also confess before my Father who is in heaven. But whoever denies me before men, him I will also deny before my Father who is in heaven. Comment: when we're persecuted, lying and smearing will be part of it. There might be false charges, false witnesses coming forth, evil assumptions, slander, and twisting of the truth to discredit us and the gospel. In verse 26, don't worry about it. God will bring the truth out eventually. Quote, there's nothing covered that will not be revealed, or hidden that will not be known. Therefore, in verse 27, go ahead and broadcast the gospel. Quote, what I tell you in the darkness, speak in the light, and what you heard whispered in the ear, proclaim on the housetops. End quote. If Jesus says it, just say it and let the chips fall where they may. In verse 28, man only has power over the body, but God has power over body and soul to send them to hell. Therefore fear God, not man. It's interesting that hell is for the soul and body, as heaven is also for the soul and body. Romans 8:11, 1 Corinthians 6:14, and 15:53 and 54. In verses 29 through 31, God's aware of our situation and will look after us, considering how valuable we are to Him. If He keeps count of the hairs on our heads, He's aware of the details of our persecutions. If He won't let a sparrow fall until the time is right, He won't let us fall until the time is right. Therefore, in verses 32 and 33, when the heat is on, don't deny Christ. If we claim Him before men, He'll claim us. If we disavow Him, He'll disavow us. When the heat isn't on so much, it's still important, because if we deny Christ merely to avoid a little embarrassment, we'd certainly deny Him if our life is on the line. Verse 34. Don't think that I came to send peace on the earth. I didn't come to send peace, but a sword. For I came to set a man at odds against his father, and a daughter against her mother, and a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. A man's foes will be those of his own household. He who loves father or mother more than me is not worthy of me, and he who loves son or daughter more than me isn't worthy of me. He who doesn't take his cross and follow after me isn't worthy of me. He who seeks his life will lose it, and he who loses his life for my sake will find it. He who receives you receives me, and he who receives me receives him who sent me. He who receives a prophet in the name of a prophet will receive a prophet's reward. He who receives a righteous man in the name of a righteous man will receive a righteous man's reward. Whoever gives one of these little ones just a cup of cold water to drink in the name of a disciple, most certainly I tell you, he will in no way lose his reward. Comment: in verses 34 to 37, we must hold to our Christian testimony within our families. We must love Christ more than our family members. Of course, we won't bring any aggressions against our family members, but they might be aggressive toward us, even bring a literal sword against us in the worst-case scenario by turning us in to the authorities. In this sense, Christ didn't come to bring peace, but a sword. The sword isn't His, but rather it's the sword of the unbeliever and of Satan. In verses 38 and 39, Christ is worth dying for. If we're willing to die for Him, we found out what life is all about. In verses 40 to 42, just as we don't dissociate ourselves from Christ, we don't dissociate ourselves from Christian leaders and other Christians. He specifically mentioned prophets and righteous men. We receive, assist, and support them. We associate ourselves solidly with Christ up and down the line, in major and seemingly minor situations, at home, in private, and in public. Matthew 11 is next at landofhavilah.net. Matthew 11.